Before Darth Maul ever ignited a lightsaber, he was a child. And someone decided that child's pain would be more useful than his love. What Palpatine did to Maul, the broken fathers, the corporate machine, the grind culture, are doing to men right now, and most of them have no idea it's happening. This is the real story of Darth Maul, not the warrior, not the Sith, the man. And it might be the most important story you've ever heard, because it might be yours. Maul was born on Dathomir, a warrior clan, red skies, a mother who by all accounts loved him. Then Palpatine arrived. He didn't negotiate, he didn't ask, he took the child. And here's the detail most people walk right past, those markings on Maul's face. Those aren't war paint, those are Sith tattoos applied by Sidious himself. He didn't just train the child. He branded him like property. Before Maul was old enough to choose anything, he was already claimed. And from that day forward, everything Maul experienced, every meal, every beating, every moment of victory, was engineered to serve someone else's agenda. Palpatine didn't want a son. He wanted a weapon. There's a word for this in psychology. Instrumental parenting. Raising a child not for who they are, but for what they can produce. And before you say that's just Star Wars, look around. How many men were raised the same way? Not by a Sith Lord in a black robe, but by a father who only showed up when you performed, a school that only praised you when you scored, a culture that told you your value is measured by your output, your income, your title. You were engineered too. The question is, for whose agenda? Marcus Aurelius saw this coming 2,000 years ago. He wrote in Meditations, the first rule is to keep an untroubled spirit. The second is to look things in the face and know them for what they are. Maul never had an untroubled spirit, because no one ever gave him permission to. Lao Tzu wrote in the Tao Te Ching, "He who controls others may be powerful, but he who has mastered himself is mightier still." Palpatine controlled Maul completely. Not with chains, with identity. He didn't cage the man. He convinced the man that the cage was who he was. That is the darkest kind of power, and it is everywhere. In the job, you hate but can't leave, because it's who you are. In the relationship you stay in, because walking away feels like failure. In the version of yourself you perform for everyone else, while the real version starves in silence. Maul wasn't the dark side. Maul was what the dark side does to a man when it gets to him young enough. The tragedy isn't that he was evil. The tragedy is that he never got to find out who he could have been. When Maul fought, he used Form 7, Juyo, the form of ferocity. Most Jedi refuse to train in it. Too dangerous, too volatile. It requires the user to draw strength directly from their own rage, and Maul had an unlimited supply. On the surface, this looked like power. He was faster than Qui-Gon Jinn, more relentless than Kenobi. He cut one of the greatest Jedi who ever lived in half in a single duel. But here's what almost nobody talks about. Maul lost every war he ever fought. Every single one. Not because he wasn't strong enough, because rage is not a strategy. Rage is a reaction. And you cannot build anything, a life, an empire, a future, on a reaction. Epictetus understood this. He was a slave, literally owned, physically broken. And he became one of the greatest philosophers in history. He wrote, "People are disturbed not by events, but by their opinions about events." Maul was never disturbed by what happened to him. He was consumed by his opinion of it. The opinion that Kenobi must die. The opinion that Sidious betrayed him. the opinion that revenge was the only path forward, and so he spent 30 years chasing a ghost, while his actual life slipped through his fingers. The Tao Te Ching says, knowing others is wisdom. Knowing yourself is enlightenment. Mastering others requires force. Mastering yourself requires strength. Maul had mastered force. He never touched strength. And so he kept losing. To Kenobi, to Sidious, to Ahsoka. Not because they were more powerful, because they were free, and he was not. Now here's the moment I need you to sit with. Where in your life is rage acting as a substitute for grief? Because they feel completely different from the inside. Rage feels active. Rage feels like control. Grief feels passive. Grief feels like weakness. So men choose rage every time. The punched wall instead of the shed tear. The cold silence instead of, I'm scared. The 70-hour work week instead of, I don't know who I am anymore. That's Chuyo, Form 7. The form of ferocity, drawing power from pain you've never actually processed. And, like Maul, it will make you terrifying, right up until the moment it destroys you, because the Force, whatever you call it, always finds the cracks. And a man built on unprocessed rage is nothing but cracks. There's a scene that most people skip right past. Tatooine, Star Wars Rebels. Maul, older now, hollow-eyed, decades of rage carved into his face. He's tracked Kenobi to the desert, their final meeting. After everything, after surviving being cut in half, after losing his master, his brother, after building and losing an entire criminal empire, after 30 years of pure, burning, purposeless hatred, he finds Kenobi, and the fight lasts 11 seconds, 3 strikes. Kenobi wins. But the fight isn't the scene. The scene is what comes after. Maul, dying, looks up, and he asks one question. Is he the chosen one? And Kenobi says he is. And Darth Maul, the most rage-consumed being in the galaxy, smiles and whispers, he will avenge us. Think about that. In his final seconds, Maul stopped fighting for himself. He found something he had never truly possessed in life. Hope. Not for his own survival. Hope for the future. For someone else. For a cause larger than his own hatred. This is what Lao Tzu called Wu Wei. Effortless action. Not fighting the river. Becoming part of it. For 30 years, Maul fought the current. For 11 seconds at the end, he let go. And it was the most powerful thing he ever did. The Tao Te Ching says, to the mind that is still, the whole universe surrenders. Maul's mind was never still, until it was. And in those final seconds, he became more than a weapon. He became a man. Here's the truth that should hit like cold water. Everything Maul found in those 11 seconds, the peace, the purpose beyond himself, the letting go, he could have found it 40 years earlier. The wisdom was always available. The path was always there. He just kept choosing the lightsaber when what he needed was the stillness. And that is not just Darth Maul's story. That is the story of every man who has spent his life fighting, when what he actually needed was to feel. The dark side of the Force is not evil. It's unprocessed emotion, weaponized, and every single one of us has a dark side. The only question is, will you meet yours now? Or will it take a lifetime of loss to get there? The abundant monk exists because this question matters, not just in the Star Wars universe, in yours, in your home, for your sons, for the version of yourself that's been waiting for permission to put down the rage. Ancient wisdom, wrapped in the mythology you grew up with. Because The Force, whatever you name it, is real. If this landed, subscribe. And also, take the free Dark Side audit, link in the description. Find out which side of the Force you're actually operating from. It takes 3 minutes. It might change the next 3 decades. Chapter 1 of this series is live right now. Watch it next. I'm the Abundant Monk, and the Force is real.